Hello, hello, hello. Black Bane Samson here. How's everyone doing today? It's about 3:30. It is January 9th, 2019. About a week after New Year's. Hope everybody's New Year's was great. Happy New Year's. Late New Year's. Belated New Year's. So today, as you can see, as the images flicker by, Stargate. That is Stargate SG-1 Command Center right there, and then that's one of the spaceships later on that the Prometheus, if I remember correctly. So today I want to talk about essentially the Stargate series. I'm going to kind of keep this short as I've never done anything like this. Essentially, give an overall on a like an overview on a TV show or on a show. Never done anything on these podcasts that I put on. I've never done anything like this outside of my own little amateur studio here. Um, Something that I feel like doing to better my language skills, my ability to communicate, and just to get the information out there that's just stuck in my head and that I feel like just needs to be put out there for anybody to rummage through if they would like. And I would like people to. But so I'm gonna go on here. Stargate SG1. So Stargate. At first, the film. I'm gonna start with the film. The film was um was made back in 1994. It was with um the doctor in that was I believe his name was James Spader. James Spader. He was the like doctor. Um oh geez, Jackson, Daniel Jackson in the film, and he was one of the main I'd say actors, and then um and then later on. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not later on. Kurt Russell was the O'Neill, Colonel O'Neill within the very first film. And I'd say those two actors, were great actors, and it's a shame that they didn't actually continue on. But and the reason why I bring up those two is because they actually represented, I think, a good proportion of what men should be essentially. Honorable, respectable. Um, you got the super courageous one, and then you got the super intelligent one. Working together on completing a task. These things are these things have all been lost over the last, I'd say, 20 years or so within filmmaking. You don't see strong men no more, especially in any Hollywood film. There's really no strong men, and if there is, it's definitely not a strong white man. That's for certain. Unless you're a superhero, there is no such thing as a strong white man now in Hollywood. Unless again you're a superhero, and even then they'll try to make a non-white person just as strong or even stronger or better or morally better or something. They'll always try to do outbeat them, and it's kind of interesting. But anyways, move on here. So essentially, what Stargate was about was a film about uh, um, America or archaeologists finding a gate that allowed them to travel to distant planets all throughout the galaxy. And as they're in the film itself, the original film, uh, they they essentially figured out one of the, I guess you could say, the travel coordinates, the symbols, and when they put them all together right, it allowed them to go to um, Abadal, I think it was called, and from there, that's when they met the Gould um, race, which was like a parasite essentially that lives in the chest or just lives in the yeah, I think it's in the chest and wrapped it around the spine or something like that. Um, but then it has a control of person's actions and thoughts, like complete actions and thoughts. And so what they're doing is they're realizing that that they Earth people are not the only people in the galaxy. In fact, we we in the film they're starting to realize that uh, humans are being put onto different planets, and they don't know exactly why, but they realize these humans that they found there in Abyddal are actually from Earth, and they realize it's these aliens that are essentially harvesting people and just bringing them all over the place. So once they learn that, they fight, of course, and they blow up the ship. That's pretty much the end of that movie. And then it's like a year later, and then that's when SG-1, the film, essentially picks up after. Not literally a year. It's 97 was the film was made, and 94 was, I'm sorry, 97 was the Stargate SG-1, the TV show was made, and then 94 was when the original film was made. And um, so it's like essentially what happens is in the film that the TV show essentially starts a year after the film, and they change I'd say the two main actors, and then they add two additional actors to that to make two main more actors. And the actors are, I'm going to name them off here, is Michael Shanks, that plays as Dr. Daniel Jackson, Richard Dean Anderson, which is the Colonel Jackson O'Neill, and then Christopher Judge, which is Teal'c, and then Amanda Tapping, which is the Major Samantha Carter. And they all, I think, work together really well. I mean, from what I read too, is like when they were on stage, when they were uh, going to do their tryouts or performance, they all clicked. I guess they all really were interacting before they even knew that they got the part or even what part they were going to play. So I guess that helped with the picking, and also uh, Michael Shanks. He imitated James Spader, I guess, like perfectly, which I can kind of see because he has oddly. It looks like he could be almost like a brother or a son or something to James Spader. So, and they both have that. Well, James Spader's definitely he acts like that a very elite professional person, but smartass. Where Michael Shanks can act like that elite smart person too, but not so much of the smartass, but more of the nerdiness. But he can. I'm sure he can play either way he wants. Um, but I want to get to Jack O'Neill. Um, Jack O'Neill, that character, what he represents, the guy Richard Dean Anderson, he also played MacGyver, and he played a whole bunch of other like short films and movies and stuff. Was like just playing a part in them or something, but never huge recognition, not enough to make him well known from those films. Besides MacGyver and Stargate series, those series worked in his favor awesomely, and he played them perfectly. He executed them exactly the way that they needed to be. And what's interesting is that his both his characters, or almost all characters that he's played as, but his main two characters that he's played as, MacGyver and as Jack O'Neill, Colonel Jack O'Neill, was that he had a tragedy in his life, and it's loss of his, I believe in both loss of his son or loss of a family member. And what's interesting is that it really shows that a man can overcome that hardship and still do what is right and what's necessary, and deal with those emotions and ways. And throughout the series, it actually shows how he deals with it and how he doesn't deal with it. It's actually pretty interesting. It's really cool how they implemented that in there. But um, it's rare nowadays to find a male role figure, a strong role figure, especially white male figure, uh, to be displaying a lot of these really good characteristic, these good, essentially ethics that men should have that have been lost, and now they're just essentially these men who just act stupid everybody's smarter than them and they can never do what's right, and or it's they're just totally mean and brute, and whenever they tell people not to do something, and though that they're right, they're still looked at as being evil and bad. It's a weird outlook on what Hollywood is doing to male figure roles, especially non-white male figure roles in Hollywood, or just in TV films. It's quite interesting. So, and the reason why I'm bringing this stuff up too is that's partially what made Stargate, the very first film, and Stargate 1, was strong male figures and also just other strong characters. So Samantha Carter and also Teal'c, those were two strong characters that were uncommon in a sense to find in that type of that scenario, essentially that small of a group, and it worked beautiful, and people could relate. That's one of the things with the film, is that people could relate. People can be like, well, that could be me. And in some weird way, in the back of our minds, we are imagining we are these characters. And when you can't, or when you can't nor even want to imagine yourself being as one of those characters, then those films usually fall short really quick, which is kind of what happened to Stargate Universe and that Stargate Origin, and somewhat even Atlantis, except at least the main character, right? I forget what his name was. He was the colonel or whatever there. And then the guy from Aquaman, I forget what his name is. But you know, those were at least somewhat strong male roles, even though they acted goofy and childish. Like, they didn't act like respectable men that you wanted to respect, because you know they were your ranking officer essentially in the film. But beyond that, like in real life, you wouldn't find much to respect about these people. Ooh, they have strength. Ooh, they have ability to order people around. But beyond that, they act stupid. They make poor choices. They're more on the comedy side. They seem like that class clown. Not to say there's nothing wrong with the class clown, but usually the class clown does not look so good in a uniform and looking like a leader of some sort. Usually class clowns don't turn out that way. Not saying that they can't, just that they usually don't. So yeah, after Stargate Atlantis, like Stargate Universe was really wanted, and I just wanted to mention there was actually a Stargate Infinity. It was an animated series, and it lasted. It was like between like 02 or 03 or something like that. It lasted one season. It was like only like 20 some episodes or something like that. So and again, that was one of those things that they were trying to put in there. And yet the cast in it, which was a cartoon cast, did not represent what most people who watch the shows. So that's, again, you need to relate to your viewers. If you can't, then what are you doing? What's your goal? What is your goal? Because your goal is to captivate the audience. And if the audience does not have nothing to relate to what's on stage or on the film or on the TV, then you just lost their interest. You literally lost their interest. If they don't care about what you're trying to push, because you're trying to push something when they do stuff like that. When you just go out there and look at the main like wallpaper, or the main, yeah, this is essentially of Stargate Infinity. And you'll know it's completely different from the last. It's just completely different from the last two series, or even the main film. Like, you need to carry on what's continuation. You can't just suddenly just be in a different universe. That's what's literally, when I never watched the episodes, but from what I've seen a little bit, it just looks like you're watching a different dimension version of Stargate SG-1. It's weird. It's just weird. But anyways, and then Stargate Universe came along, and Stargate Universe was really cool. It was really unique, and it had a great uh, uh, essentially, I don't want to say plot, but like the depths of what was there, what they could play with was so much. But it was the cost and the amount of crew that literally sunk that ship. Sadly, that was the issue. It was literally the cost of the manufacturing of the films and then the amount of crew that they had to pay. That was the cause of the demise of that film, not the lack of the story. See, the lack of the story or the way that they implemented the character, how slow it was to begin with, that's whatever. But that could have been dealt with if they would have saved money by not paying so many damn actors and not having such a high budget on a production cost. You didn't really need to do those crazy CGI like scenes when the first two series and the movie did very little of that. In fact, SG1 did pretty much all low budget, and yet it was the most success. Well, why don't you take that methodology and apply it? It's like they just like, nope, that methodology was just, it was in the past and no longer will work now. But you're not trying to see if it works now. And that's like one of the things that's like really frustrating. Rather than keeping a good series going, it's like, well, let's see what we can do to change it up and fuck it up and destroy what every fan loved about it. That's seriously what's. And then you have Stargate Origin, all right, which is really what it did. That it really did it. It took everything what was good about essentially Stargate and literally threw it down the trash. I mean, it has an IMDb of 4 out of 10. Supposedly on Google, it's 79%, which I bet that's skewed. It has literally one season with 10 episodes. All right, it is a failure, and it's a webisode, so it's essentially a online internet TV series. Usually those cost way less. So it makes you wonder, how does a low budget film of 10 episodes fail so miserably? Well, it's because of exactly what they did. They took a film and they were like, we're going to rewrite the history of it. And that's pretty much what they did. They went back, they call it Stargate Origins because they want to make it seem like there's a whole lot of story that was never been told in the past before the original film, and then also before SG1. And that's bull. That's 100% bull, because in SG1, there was multiple times that they went back in the past, and there was no reference to any of the Stargate Origins. Origins is literally, it's like a whole written story that they just like shoved into the actual series, like into the actual whole universe. It doesn't belong there. It does not belong there one bit. And the fact that they too, again, the main character on this one, the main role is a woman. Well, I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, but here's the thing. Again, the majority of people who watch these shows cannot relate to that, because guess what? They're not women who watch sci-fi channels or sci-fi movies or films or flicks. It's men. It's geeky ass nerdy men like me who love these types of films and who watch them over and over and over. And we are actually the ones who will buy them too. No, not the women. So not sure why they're trying to cater to those 10 fucking women. Like, sorry, I'm not trying to like whatever, but it's you just 10 women. I mean, it's literally, it's not that many women compared to men who watch this show. So if you're gonna actually try to birth or give life to Stargate in hopes that it can come back, you don't do it by literally targeting audience that have no connection with your film. I mean, that's exactly their problem, is that their problem is so disconnected from reality that it leads to them making decisions on let's target women for sci-fi films because we just know women just love sci-fi films, and even if they don't, maybe this will make them love it more. Nope. If you had any fucking clue, since the 60s, we've been pushing for women to be in whole sorts of things that men do. And guess what? Still to this day, those fields are pretty fucking empty of women still. If you like this podcast, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like this podcast, please still like and subscribe. Share and retweet or whatever. just get this stuff out there, please. This will help me out a lot, and I just would like people to get this information and comment and let me know on how I'm doing, no matter what they got to say or how they want to say it. I don't care. More conversation among this stuff, or even just towards this will be great. Thank you. Everyone have a great day.